Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks for coming out and participating in this. It should be quite a tournament. Looking forward to the opportunity tomorrow night. As far as hockey, I'm not sure I got a lot to say about hockey. So I thought maybe we'd go down a putting lesson today. What do you think of that, Todd? You're not a good putter? No? Well, that's why we got to work on it. Right?
All right, we'll open up for questions for student athletes. We have a microphone. Please raise your hand. And first question for student athletes, right here in the front.
Todd Molesky from the Wisconsin State Journal. Layla, you've played Minnesota 5 times already. Is there any unknowns at this point? Is there anything you think is unknown, or what kind of things do you kind of have in mind for what you're going to expect right away tomorrow?
Yep, I think every time we play them, we're going to get their best game and their best effort. It's a big rivalry. We're the number 1 team. So, I think we're ready for anything at this point. It's the 6th time. So, I'd hope we'd be ready. But I think it's a new slate. We don't worry about the last 5 games. It's our first time playing them in this tournament.
Next question for student athletes. Right here and then in the back.
Nicole Hazy, USCHO, for both of you, what has to, like, for somebody that hasn't watched a bunch, what do they see in the first 5-10 minutes of the game to know that things are going well for you? And it's like, if everything is perfect, that game's going to go the way you want it to.
I think that Coach talks a lot about just coming out strong, and like those first 5 minutes before that first media timeout is important because Minnesota always comes out hard and fast. So I think for us, just making sure that we're managing our blue lines well and playing well in our D zone, because we know that our best defense is our offense. So as long as we can get some pucks down in their zone behind their net, we're gonna find success in those first 5 minutes.
Question in the back.
For both Ava and Layla, Andrew Banster with Channel 3 in Madison. Just how exciting is this whole experience? Obviously, you go through all this stuff today. Just what's the excitement level to just get on the ice and start the game?
We're extremely excited. As Coach mentioned, plenty of teams, our season's over and they don't get to play again until September, and we have the opportunity to keep doing what we love with the people we love. So tomorrow at 7:30, we have another opportunity to showcase ourselves. Yeah, it's just so exciting, and it's a privilege.
Next question for student athletes. Back here.
Ava, I know you thought you could have a really good season coming into this year, but did you think it was possible to be a National Goalie of the Year kind of season, and what does that mean to you to have that award?
Yeah, I actually found out right before practice. One of our staff members just came up and was like, "Congratulations!" I was like, "What are you talking about? Like, I don't know what you're talking about." But definitely never something I really expected to earn this year. But really honored to have that award. But there's so much that goes on behind that, and so much talent ahead of me that allows me to play at this level. And I'm not always going to have a perfect game, but having such talented people in front of me on the ice allows our team to find success, and kind of my individual success comes along with that. But never something I would have expected coming into this year, I'd say.
Do you like this little arena, playing hockey in here?
Oh yeah, it's actually after LeBron in Madison, Wisconsin is probably my favorite rink to play in. It's a little smaller, but it's pretty similar to ours, and our fans travel so well that it feels like a home game, and the energy is just really good. So yeah, it's one of my favorites. How about you, Ava?
Yeah, I would agree. I think it's really similar to our rink, especially just the atmosphere, and it's nice to have such a intense atmosphere at our home rink, so it's not like it's something that's new coming into this rink. And I'd say really the only difference is just really behind the net. It's pretty tight back there. So, and obviously Minnesota gets to play on this rink more than we do, so I guess maybe that's to their advantage, but it is nice that our rink is pretty similar.
Any other questions for the student athletes?
Ava, kind of a similar question to what I asked Layla before, but you've played Minnesota 5 times. You were trying to beat them for the 6th time, and that's got to be something that's really hard to do. Is that something that's you feel like is in the minds of the team you're playing tomorrow, or is that in your guys' minds at all?
Yeah, I think it's definitely tough to beat a team 6 times in a season. But at the same time, we keep talking about how the WCHA tournament is 2 weeks, and this is really a 2-week-long tournament as well. And we really only have one game ahead of us, and we don't really have any behind us either, because at this point everyone here is 1-0. So maybe in the back of your head, you know how they played last time, and maybe where you need to improve to make sure that we play our best tomorrow. But I think just looking forward is the most important aspect of tomorrow, because what happened in the past is in the past, and we're just trying to win 60 minutes tomorrow.
There.
Players, could you describe your competition with Abby Murphy in one sentence?
Is that a homework assignment or essay from professor? When's it due?
I would say intense in one word.
I'd say you know how she's going to play and what her game plan is, and it works sometimes and sometimes it doesn't, so being prepared for that is important.
Dean Spiros from the Pioneer Press. Wondering if Minnesota showed you anything different the last time you played them.
Up in Duluth?
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
the close game that you had up there.
No, very, very similar. The 2 games that we played up here, a little bit different, obvious, because the personnel on their side when we played them in Duluth was different than we played them in Madison. So, similar to, you look at Ohio State, you look at Cornell. I look at Clarkson, other teams that were part of the Frozen Four, and of the teams that participated, I would, strongly suggest they're all playing their best hockey during this stretch. And so as we played Minnesota up in Duluth a couple weeks ago, of the games we played, they were playing at their best. And that's, as a coaching staff, you take pride in that, because the meanings of the game as we get later in the season become much more important. As we get into the tournaments, they become important. So, as a staff, if you can say you're playing your best hockey, you're probably in a good space.
Here in the front.
Mark, I know it's hard to sweep any team. Talking about this level, NHL level playoffs there, especially when a team is as good as Minnesota is and when they're in their building. Does that all enter your mind at all of how you've done so far this season and what maybe you have to do differently than those 5 games to get a 6?
Yeah, so now my grip is good, right? So my putting stroke should be right there. So now I've birdied 5 holes in a row. And now I get to that 6th hole, right? I got that 3.5, 4-footer. Now, am I thinking about the previous 5, or am I thinking about the one that I'm about to approach? And so I don't need to make 6 in a row. I need to make 1 in a row. And so you can take words and twist them. But facts are facts, and what's out there is true. But it's clearing your mind, keeping the noise outside, and focus on what's important. And what's important is the 60 minutes and, what's happened in the previous, if we were 3-2 or 2-3 or 1-4. We know each other. Both teams are playing at a high level right now. Both have difference makers. Goaltenders are playing well. It just sets up for a great semifinal game. And so the place is sold out. I don't know how much better it gets than that. So, irrelevant what happened the previous 5, that shouldn't be in our minds. It should be about where our space is right now and our capabilities individually to play your best game. And then collectively, if we're able to do that, then we'll play our best game. And you get in that space, and you hope it's enough. It may not be enough, but you hope it is. So, as I always said, don't look in the rearview mirror too long, because you'll crash. I'm looking forward and ahead, and I hope everybody on our team's doing the same thing.
Next question here in the front.
Zach Seeloff, WTSO Madison. Coach, against Clarkson, the weight of the ice time shifted a little bit for your lines. The 4th line didn't see as much as they sometimes do. Was that something that you saw against Clarkson that made you want to change that, or is that something you see going forward in the playoffs?
No, you're just managing the game. Obviously, we're involved in the 3 TV timeouts. Tomorrow's going to be no difference other than the fact that instead of 60 seconds, now they're 90 seconds. And so when that's part of the game, it changes the way you run your lines. It's not a regular season game. And so your strategies and matchups, obviously being the position we're in, we get last line change, so that can change things. But it's matchups and what the other team has and what you think you can counter that either gives you an advantage or neutralizes what they have.
Other questions for Coach Johnson? Back over there.
Anything left to throw in differently for hundreds of times you've played Brad and his teams? I'm sure you guys can probably read each other pretty easily across the benches.
Yeah, it's like I say, very familiar. Been doing this against them for a long time, and but it's enjoyable. I mean, it's as I told my wife as we were leaving Madison, it's like you got to enjoy the next 3 or 4 days, depending on how the first game goes. And I think as coaches, sometimes we're so worried about the next thing or what the outcome is. And that's part of it, but you have to enjoy the moment because as I told our team last weekend at LeBon in the quarterfinal game, I mean, for upperclassmen, they may never get that opportunity again, and so why not enjoy it? Put a smile on your face, go on the ice, and let everything go and play to win. And again, it's trying to get into that space, and it's easy to talk about, but it's hard to do. And so, am I nervous? You can have butterflies. That's okay. But when you go on the ice, it's just like, boom. Try to get in the zone where somebody might score or something might happen, and you don't even hear the crowd. I mean, I remember playing some nights, and there'd be 18,000 people, and then you score a big goal, and it's like, oh, I didn't hear him. Well, what's that mean? Well, you're so in this zone of doing what you need to do on the ice that everything else becomes irrelevant, other than what your job is to do.